I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We met when we were both young and still figuring out life, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. Sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, but I genuinely believed Lisa was loyal, at least until recently. Lately, I'd been noticing little things that didn't sit right, but I brushed them off at first. Little late nights, strange messages on her phone that she quickly dismissed as work-related, and her becoming more distant, more bitchy, especially when I tried to talk to her about anything meaningful. It started about a month ago, I guess. She began snapping at me more than usual, accusing me of not paying enough attention, being boring. She'd say things like, "You just don't get it," or "You're too old-fashioned." Then she started traveling for work more often, more trips than she'd ever taken before. I figured it was just her job, until I noticed something odd in her schedule. She'd go on these material selection trips with the forge's security camera recording everything. I work in manufacturing myself, so I know how these things go, but I'd never known her to be so invested in the metalworking side of things. One night, after she left on what she called a material trip, I decided to check the security footage. I sat down at the computer and pulled up the camera feed from the forge. I wasn't expecting much, maybe just some boring footage of her picking out steel or whatever. But then I saw it, her and Tom, the blacksmith in the forge. I'd never even met Tom, but I knew the guy by reputation. Big guy, rough around the edges, and supposedly the best blacksmith in town. What struck me was how familiar they looked during those clips. They'd clearly been meeting secretly during these material trips. They'd go into the back room while the camera caught snippets of their encounters. I saw them talking closely, intimate, almost like they were in their own little world. Then there were moments where she'd lean into him, laugh a little too long, or touch his arm. I saw her without makeup, with her hair up, looking like she was trying to hide something, and that hurt more than I expected. I felt my stomach knot up. My first instinct was disbelief. I mean, Lisa's always been bitchy, but I never thought she'd cheat. And with a guy like Tom, seriously, I'd heard stories, rumors more than anything, but I never thought it'd be her. The woman I married, the woman I trusted, was sneaking off to see another man. My mind raced. Was this just a fling? How long had it been going on? How many times had they met? And why? I kept replaying the footage, trying to find some explanation, some reason she'd lie so blatantly. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying what I saw, feeling a mixture of rage, betrayal, and sadness. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything was pointing to one thing. Lisa had been lying to me, hiding something big. I felt like my world was crashing down around me. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built, all the years we shared? I'd always been loyal, faithful, and here she was, sneaking around with Tom, of all people. It's like a punch in the gut every time I think about it, and that's where I am now. Sitting here trying to make sense of it all, wondering what the hell I do next. Do I confront her? Do I pretend I didn't see anything? Do I just pack my bags and leave? The truth is, I haven't made up my mind yet. I just know I can't ignore this anymore. The trust is gone, and I need to figure out if I can fix this or if I should just walk away. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was still twisted from everything I'd seen the night before. I kept thinking about her, about the footage, about Tom. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I never considered myself a violent or impulsive guy, but the feeling of betrayal was so raw I could almost taste it. I had to decide what to do, but I knew one thing. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I got up early, made some coffee, and sat in the living room trying to think clearly. I kept going over the footage, trying to find some way to justify it, some rational explanation, but there wasn't one. She lied about everything, about her trips, about her work. I kept asking myself how long she'd been doing this, how deep it went, if I'd been blind to all this or if I just refused to see it. A few hours later, she came home. She looked exhausted, like she'd just run a marathon. I remember how she walked in, all bitchy, snapping at me before I even said a word. "What's your problem?" she spat, throwing her bag onto the couch. I looked at her sharply, feeling my hands clench. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Don't bullshit me, Lisa," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I know about Tom. I saw the footage, all those trips you've been meeting him behind my back. How long has this been going on?" She froze for a moment, eyes wide, then she started lying. The usual bullshit, saying I was imagining things, that Tom was just helping her with some metalwork, that I was paranoid, that she loved me and would never cheat. I could see she was trying to spin it, trying to make me doubt what I saw. But I wasn't falling for it, I'd seen enough. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "You're crazy. Maybe it's you who's been distant. Maybe you're the one cheating on me with your damn work or something. Just leave me alone." I felt my blood boil. This bitch was good at lying, but I'd seen her in action, seen her with my own eyes. I couldn't believe how she was trying to turn this around, make me look like the bad guy. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. "You're lying," I said, voice trembling with anger. "You've been sneaking around with Tom and lying about everything. I saw you, Lisa. I saw what you did. I don't even recognize you anymore. I thought we had something real, but clearly I was just a fool." She looked at me, lips pressed tight, then she spat. "If you're so damn sure, why don't you prove it? Maybe I'll just leave if you're so jealous and insecure." That moment, I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The betrayal hit me hard, but I knew I had to face it. Head on, I wasn't going to let her keep lying and twisting things around. I decided I had to be strategic, to think about my next move carefully. Confronting her was just the start. I needed to figure out what I wanted, whether to fight for this marriage or to walk away. But underneath all that anger and sadness, there was something else. Hurt. Deep, aching hurt. I'd trusted her. I'd loved her, and now I was questioning everything. Every memory we had, every promise we made. The girl who used to be so bitchy, so sharp-tongued, suddenly felt so distant. I'd never felt so betrayed, so lost in my own life. I knew I couldn't stay silent. I had to decide how to handle this mess, and fast. I wasn't going to be her punching bag, her fool. She had crossed a line, and now I was trying to figure out if I had it in me to forgive, or if I should just walk away and start over. As much as I hated the idea of losing everything, I couldn't let her keep hurting me like this. I had to choose soon, but right now, I just sat there staring at the wall, trying to hold it together. The days after that confrontation were a blur. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to understand how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her lies. The worst part was the way she acted, like nothing had happened, like I was overreacting. Every time I brought up the footage or the trips, she'd brush it off, call me paranoid, accuse me of trying to control her. I could see her bitchy smirk when she'd dismiss me, and that made my blood boil even more. I started noticing more things, little clues that she was still sneaking around. Her phone was always hidden. She'd leave it face down on the table, and she'd get defensive when I asked to see it. Her social media activity suddenly became more secretive, and I'd catch her deleting messages or hiding conversations. Every little detail just confirmed what I already knew deep down, that she was lying, cheating. The worst part was that I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. But that love was being chipped away with every new lie I uncovered. One night, I followed her when she said she was going to run errands. I didn't plan to do anything crazy, I just wanted to see where she was going. She headed straight to the forge, to that damn place where she'd been meeting Tom. I parked a few blocks away, watching her walk in. The place looked dark, quiet, but I knew she was inside. My hands clenched into fists. I felt so betrayed, so angry, I was ready to break something. I waited outside for nearly an hour, listening to my own thoughts swirl. What the hell was I supposed to do? Confront her again, or just leave it alone and walk away? I knew I was close to losing my mind over this. I didn't want to believe the woman I loved had been lying to me for months, but I also couldn't pretend this was just some harmless affair. It was real, it was happening, and I had proof now. Finally, I decided I needed a plan, something to even the playing field. I couldn't just storm into the forge and blow everything up. That wouldn't help me get my life back. I had to be smart. I started researching how to catch someone in the act, how to gather evidence that couldn't be denied. I set up my own little surveillance system, hidden cameras around the house, especially near the entrances, just in case she tried to sneak out again. I wanted to catch her red-handed, and I wanted her to know I wasn't messing around anymore. I also started thinking about what I'd say if I ever confronted her again. I knew she'd lie, She'd deny everything, but I had to be ready. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some fool anymore. She'd crossed the line, and I was damn serious about finding out the truth, no matter what it cost. I was hurt, furious, and exhausted, but I refused to be the one who walked away without fighting for myself. In the back of my mind, I knew this was only the beginning. What I'd uncovered so far was just the surface. I had no idea how deep this went, how long she'd been sneaking around, or what her real plans were. But I could feel it. Something big was coming, and I had to be ready. I didn't want to be a victim, but I also didn't want to be the fool. I had to decide whether to fight for what was left of us or to cut my losses and walk away. Either way, I knew I wouldn't be able to go back to pretending everything was okay. Not anymore. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to slip up again. I had to take control of the situation. I started planning my next move carefully. No impulsive actions, no rash accusations. I wanted her to know I was onto her, but I had to do it in a way that left no doubt. I spent a few days setting up hidden cameras around the house, especially in the living room and bedroom, places I knew she'd be vulnerable. My goal was to catch her in the act if she tried to hide things or sneak out again. Meanwhile, my mind was racing through every possible scenario. I kept asking myself if I should just confront her head-on, lay everything out, tell her I'd seen the footage, demand answers. But part of me also wanted to surprise her, to catch her in her own game, so she'd realize I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I kept thinking about how she lied so effortlessly during our last talk, how she twisted everything to make me doubt myself. That bitch was good at manipulation, but I was done being played. Finally, one evening as I sat waiting in the living room, I saw her slip into the house quietly. She looked nervous, guilty even. She headed straight for the bedroom, and I quietly followed, my heart pounding. I flipped on the hidden camera I'd installed earlier and waited. Minutes later, I caught her sneaking out of her purse, a tiny device I secretly placed there, something to record her conversations. I had the evidence I needed. I knew she'd been talking to Tom again, probably planning her next trip or encounter. That moment, I felt a rush of adrenaline mixed with sadness. I wasn't happy about spying, but I knew I had to do it to protect myself. I wasn't about to be the fool anymore. I was ready to confront her with everything I had. I took out my phone, filming her, recording her voice, her every move. If she was going to lie her way out of this, I had proof. I felt like a damn detective in a bad movie, but I told myself I had no choice. Later that night, I sat her down in the living room, brandishing the evidence I'd collected. I played the recordings, showed her the footage, and let her see the truth written in black and white. Her eyes widened, and for a second she looked panicked. She stammered something about being stressed, about needing someone to talk to, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew she'd been cheating with Tom, that I'd seen enough. Her reaction was infuriating. She started crying, claiming she was tired of the lies, tired of pretending everything was perfect. She said she didn't love Tom, that she just needed someone to talk to, that I was suffocating her. It was all bullshit. I could see right through her. I told her she was a bitch for cheating, and she just kept lying, spinning her stories. She even had the nerve to say she was saving us, that she was only doing this because I'd been neglecting her. That made me laugh bitterly. I felt my fists clench again. I'd never been a violent guy, but all this betrayal was pushing me to the edge. I told her she had to choose. Either she was done with Tom and everything else, or she could pack her bags and leave. That I wasn't going to be her doormat anymore. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to act like she was the victim. But I was done playing her game. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. The truth was, I was hurt beyond words, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't fix this, not with her lying and cheating behind my back. I didn't want to be the fool who stayed and got hurt again. I was tired of the lies, tired of feeling like I was losing my mind trying to hold this together. I told her to leave if she wanted, that I'd had enough. And as she packed her things, I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I loved her, but I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent. She was a bitch, and she'd betrayed me in the worst way. That night I sat alone in the quiet house, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. I kept asking myself if I'd done the right thing, if I should have fought harder, or if walking away was the only option. I knew I'd be okay in time, but right now it still hurt. The trust was gone and I couldn't see a way back. I'd lost the girl I loved, but in some strange way I also found a little piece of myself again. I realized that I'd been too blind, too trusting. No more. Next time I'd be more careful, more aware of what truly mattered. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever lived through. After Lisa left, the house felt colder, emptier, like a shell of what it once was. I'd gone through the worst betrayal I could imagine, and honestly, I felt numb. Part of me kept replaying everything, questioning whether I'd done the right thing, whether I should have fought harder to save what we had. But deep down, I knew the truth. The trust was shattered beyond repair. She'd lied so many times, sneaking around, and the worst part was how effortlessly she'd lied. So bitchy, so convincing. I realized I had been a fool to ignore the signs for so long. I started cleaning out the house, packing her things, trying to make sense of the mess she'd left behind. Every item I touched reminded me of her. Her perfume, her clothes, even the stupid little trinkets she'd give me during our happier times. It was like excavating the ruins of a relationship I thought was forever. I kept telling myself I deserved better, that I'd find someone who wouldn't lie to me, who wouldn't sneak around with some blacksmith she met during material selection trips, trips that I now knew were just cover stories for her affair with Tom. I also began reaching out to some friends, people I'd trusted, people who knew Lisa well. I needed advice, validation, someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling this way. Surprisingly, I found support from some, but others told me to let it go, to forgive her if I really loved her. But I couldn't. Not anymore. I realized that love isn't about ignoring the lies or pretending everything's fine. It's about trust, and Lisa had destroyed that. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I needed to move on. The hardest part was facing the reality that she'd probably move on too, with Tom or whoever. That realization stung worse than anything. I kept picturing her with him, how she'd look all bitchy and manipulative, just like she was when she lied to my face. I hated her for what she'd done, but I also hated myself for trusting her so blindly. I kept asking myself where I went wrong. Was I too passive, too naive? Or was she just a bitch hiding behind a veneer of charm? Either way, I knew I had to pick myself up and move forward. In the mornings, I'd sit outside with a coffee, trying to clear my head. I started working more, throwing myself into my job to keep busy. It was the only way I could keep the pain at bay, pretending I was fine when inside I was a mess. I also began thinking about what I really want from life now. I'd been with Lisa for so long that I forgot who I was, what I wanted, what made me happy outside of her. I realized I was tired of being lied to, tired of feeling like I was always chasing something that was slipping away. One thing I was sure of, I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I'd be damned if I'd be some broken man wallowing in heartbreak forever. I promised myself I'd heal, rebuild, and make sure I never let someone lie to me like that again. I started thinking about dating again, about finding someone who'd be honest, who'd treat me right. But right now, it was more about healing my own wounds. I had to learn how to trust myself again, how to be alone without feeling like I was missing a piece of myself. In the end, I know I'll come out of this stronger. It hurts, yeah, it still hurts. But I've learned something valuable. Trust is fragile, and you have to guard it with everything you've got. I also learned that some women are just manipulative bitches who will lie and cheat because it's easier than facing their own problems. And I won't be fooled again. I'm still angry, still hurt, but I'm also ready to move forward, better, wiser, and with a clearer sense of what I deserve. If I could give any advice to guys in my position, it's this. Trust your gut, keep your eyes open, and don't ignore the signs. Because when someone is a bitch lying behind your back, you need to see it for what it is and get out before they drag you down with them. I've lost Lisa, but I gained something else, myself back. And honestly, that feels like a small victory. Looking back, I realize this whole mess has changed me more than I expected. I used to think I was a patient, understanding guy, but I learned that even the strongest can be broken by betrayal. Lisa was a bitch, no two ways about it. She lied with such ease, manipulating her way out of every uncomfortable truth, and I was too blind or too in love to see it. That girl I married turned into someone I barely recognized, and I felt like I lost not just her, but a part of myself along the way. I can't pretend it doesn't hurt. Sometimes, late at night, I still see her face, her sneaky little smirk when she thought she was getting away with everything. I think about the moments I ignored or dismissed the signs, how I let her manipulate me into thinking I was overreacting. But I'm glad I caught her, even if it was brutal, because now I know I can't keep trusting blindly. Trust has to be earned, and she clearly wasn't worth the sacrifice. Despite everything, I don't regret standing my ground. I might have been naive before, but I've learned that sometimes you need to cut your losses and walk away. No matter how much you love someone, if they're willing to lie and cheat behind your back, they're not worth the pain. I've become more cautious, more aware. I realize that I deserve honesty and respect, and I refuse to settle for anything less. I've also learned that revenge isn't about tearing someone down or exacting some twisted justice. It's about reclaiming your peace, your dignity. For me, that meant exposing her lies, walking away, and rebuilding my life on my own terms. I didn't want to be a victim, and I refused to be controlled by anger or heartbreak. Instead, I focus on moving forward slowly but surely. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the little red flags, they're there for a reason, and even if it hurts like hell, sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do, because nobody deserves to be lied to or used. You have to love yourself enough to walk out of the betrayal and start over. I'm not perfect, and I still have bad days, but I'm better than I was. I'm stronger. And I know one thing for sure: Lisa's betrayal taught me that I need to prioritize myself, set boundaries, and never let anyone manipulate me again. Life's too short to waste on a bitch who lies behind your back. I've lost her, but I've found a new sense of clarity, and that's worth more than any apology or regret. That's the end of my story. No more secrets, no more lies. Just a guy who learned the hard way what it means to be betrayed, who's now ready to face whatever comes next with a little more wisdom and a lot more self-respect.